The metal door slid shut with a heavy clang that echoed through the small cell. William Carter sat on the edge of his bunk, staring at the gray wall across from him. This 6-by-8-foot space had been his home for the past 3 years. 2 more decades stretched ahead of him like an endless void. Carter ran his hand over his closely cropped brown hair, a habit from his military days that prison hadn't broken. At 34, his face carried lines that hadn't been there when he first put on the uniform of the United Earth Defense Force. His green eyes, once bright with purpose, now held only resignation. "Lights out in 5 minutes," the automated system announced. The voice sounded almost human, but the slight electronic undertone gave it away. Nothing truly human existed in the series' maximum security military detention facility. Just guards, who saw prisoners as numbers and inmates serving time for crimes against humanity's war effort. Carter had been Staff Sergeant William Carter once. Decorated combat engineer, leader of men and women. Now he was just prisoner 4587. His crime? Disobeying a direct order, saving lives. 3 years ago, during a border skirmish with the Vraxian Imperium, his unit had been ordered to destroy a research station. Intelligence believed it housed enemy combatants. Carter's scans had shown something different: 47 civilian life forms. When he refused to fire, his commanding officer, General Peter Wright, had been furious. "Carter, I gave you a direct order. Sir, there are civilians in that structure. My scans confirm it. Your job isn't to question intelligence. Your job is to follow orders." But Carter couldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. He had sent his team to evacuate the station instead. They saved everyone inside, scientists from 3 different planets, none of them combatants. But during the evacuation, Vraxian forces spotted them. 3 soldiers under Carter's command died in the resulting firefight. The military tribunal had been quick and harsh: 23 years imprisonment for disobedience in a combat zone resulting in casualties. His medals meant nothing. His 12 years of service meant nothing. The lives he saved meant nothing. The lights dimmed, pulling Carter from his memories. He lay back on his thin mattress and closed his eyes, seeking sleep that rarely came easily. Morning arrived with harsh fluorescent lights and the smell of bland food. Carter went through his daily routine: exercise in his cell, shower, breakfast in the common area. He kept to himself as always. Other inmates left him alone, respecting the invisible barrier he had built around himself. He was clearing his tray when the alarms blared. Red lights flashed throughout the facility. All prisoners returned to cells immediately, the system ordered. Around him, inmates grumbled but began moving. Armed guards entered the mess hall more than usual. "What's happening?" someone asked. Guard shoved him forward. "Move, prisoner, special transport arriving." Carter joined the line, shuffling back toward the cell block. Through a reinforced window, he caught a glimpse of the landing pad outside. A military transport vessel was touching down, unlike any he had seen before. The design was sleek, with curves that Earth ships never had. Painted a deep blue with silver markings, it looked almost organic rather than manufactured. Later that day, rumors spread through the prison like wildfire. The new arrivals weren't human. "Aliens," whispered Alan Patel, the inmate in the cell next to Carter's. "Not Vraxians either. Some new species they captured near Jupiter." Carter tried to ignore the gossip. New aliens meant nothing to a man serving 23 years. The war with the Vraxians had been raging for almost a decade. Humanity had encountered 3 other sentient species before that. What difference did one more make? 3 days later, he found out. The mess hall fell silent when the guards led them in. 5 figures, escorted by heavily armed security personnel. They stood nearly 7 feet tall with slender builds. Their skin shimmered with tones of blue and purple that seemed to shift in the light. No hair covered their smooth heads, but delicate ridges ran from their foreheads to the backs of their necks. Their eyes were large and solid black, without visible pupils. Most striking was their grace. Each movement flowed like water, deliberate yet somehow effortless. The guards directed them to a separate table in the corner of the room. The alien group moved there without protest, sitting with perfect posture. Nishari, Patel whispered next to Carter. That's what they're called. Guards were talking about it during shift change. Carter glanced at them again. 4 of them appeared, identical to his untrained eye. The 5th was slightly smaller with more purple in the blue skin tones. That one turned suddenly as if sensing his gaze and looked directly at him. Something passed between them. Not communication, exactly, but acknowledgement. Recognition of another conscious being across a divide of species and circumstance. The alien's face had no expression Carter could read, but those eyes held something unmistakably intelligent. The moment broke when another inmate bumped Carter's tray. "Watch it, traitor," growled Victor Schultz, a former Marine serving time for smuggling. He leaned closer. "Bet you love seeing these freaks here. Probably wish you could save them too." Carter said nothing, controlling his breathing the way he had been trained. Engaging with Schultz would only lead to trouble. "Nothing to say?" Schultz sneered. "Maybe you should join your new friends. You're barely human anyway, way I hear it." Carter stood up with his tray. "Excuse me," he said quietly. Schultz stepped aside with exaggerated courtesy but stuck out his foot. Carter saw it coming and stepped over it easily, heading to the disposal area. Behind him, Schultz's cronies laughed. Over the next week, Carter observed the aliens from a distance. They kept to themselves, following prison routines without complaint. Guards treated them with caution, rather than the casual cruelty reserved for human inmates. Carter noticed the smaller one, the one who had looked at him, often studied human interactions with evident curiosity. During exercise period in the yard, Carter maintained his solitary routine of running laps around the perimeter. On his 3rd circuit, he noticed a commotion near the weight equipment. Schultz and several others had surrounded the aliens. The guards in the towers were looking away, deliberately, Carter suspected. He kept running, telling himself it wasn't his problem, but when he heard a sound, a high-pitched keen that somehow conveyed pain, he changed direction. Schultz had the smaller alien cornered against the wall. The others stood in a protective circle, but several inmates blocked their path. "We just want to see what you're made of," Schultz was saying, reaching toward the alien's face. "Those pretty colors real? Or some kind of makeup?" Carter stepped between them. "Back off, Schultz." Schultz's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed. "Well, look who found his voice. Defending aliens now, Carter? Not satisfied with just betraying? Your own species once." "Walk away," Carter said quietly. "Nobody needs trouble here." Schultz spat on the ground. "You're the trouble." He swung suddenly, his fist aimed at Carter's face. Carter had spent 12 years in combat before his conviction. He sidestepped the punch and blocked Schultz's arm, using the man's momentum to push him off balance. Schultz stumbled but caught himself, turning with rage in his eyes. Before he could attack again, alarms blared. Guards poured into the yard. Shock batons raised. "On the ground, everyone down now," they shouted. Carter dropped immediately, placing his hands behind his head. From the corner of his eye, he saw the aliens doing the same, mimicking the human prisoners. As a guard roughly secured restraints around his wrists, Carter caught sight of the smaller alien watching him. For just a moment, he thought he saw the smooth blue features shift into something that might have been a smile. The bright lights of the infirmary made Carter squint. His ribs ached where Schultz had managed to land a kick before the guards pulled them apart. The doctor, a stern woman named Dr. Irene Porter, finished wrapping his torso with a medical binder. 2 bruised ribs, she said. "Nothing broken. You got lucky." Carter nodded. 3 days in solitary confinement had been his punishment for the yard incident. Schultz got 5 days. The system called it justice. "Someone wants to see you," Dr. Porter said, nodding toward the door. Warden Frances Walsh stood there, arms crossed. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Carter," she said. "Feeling better?" "Yes, ma'am." Walsh gestured for Dr. Porter to leave them. When they were alone, she pulled up a chair next to his bed. "Tell me why." A man who has spent 3 years avoiding trouble suddenly jumps into a fight with Victor Schultz. Carter looked at her evenly. He was harassing the new prisoners. The Nishari. Walsh leaned forward. Most people would say that's not your problem. Most people aren't in here for saving civilians others wanted to kill. A small smile crossed Walsh's face. No, they're not. She stood up. Well, you'll be interested to know that the Nishari have asked about you, specifically the one you protected. Her name is Alara. Carter blinked in surprise. Her? Yes. Their species has similar gender divisions to humans, though their biology is quite different. Walsh walked to the door. She's been helping our medical staff. Turns out she's some kind of scientist. The higher-ups thought her knowledge might be useful to us. As Walsh left, Carter pondered this new information. He had assumed all 5 aliens were the same, perhaps even the same gender. Learning that the one he'd protected was female, and that she had a name, Ilara, made her suddenly more real. The next day, Carter returned to the general population. At lunch, he kept his eyes down, focusing on his food. The last thing he wanted was more trouble. A shadow fell across his tray. He tensed, ready for Schultz or one of his friends seeking revenge. Instead, he looked up to see Alara. Up close, her blue-purple skin had subtle patterns, almost like fingerprints. Her black eyes studied him with obvious intelligence. "May I join? You?" she asked. Her voice had an unusual musical quality, and her words carried a slight accent he couldn't place. Carter glanced around. Other inmates were watching. Guards, too. He nodded slowly. Alara gracefully sat across from him. "I wish to thank you for your intervention 3 days ago. It was a kind act." "It was nothing," Carter said, uncomfortable with gratitude. "My species does not view protection of others as nothing," she said. "I am Alara, xenobiologist of the Second Fleet. William Carter." He found himself adding, "Former Staff Sergeant, United Earth Defense Force." Alara tilted her head. "Your people imprison their own soldiers? Only the ones who disobey orders." "Fascinating." She took a bite of food, then made a face that was surprisingly human in its disgust. "Your nutrition is very strange." Despite himself, Carter almost smiled. "Prison food isn't exactly Earth's finest cuisine." Their conversation continued, halting, at first then with growing ease. Alara asked simple questions about human customs, prison routines, and Earth itself. Carter found himself answering, drawn out of his shell by her genuine curiosity. "The other Nishari, are they scientists too?" he asked eventually. "Yes. Cal is a physicist. Morai studies stellar phenomena. Thenz is an engineer, and Pax analyzes languages and communication." She looked at the table where the other 4 sat. "We are an exploration team, not warriors." "Then why are you here? In prison, I mean." Ilara's expression changed subtly. "Your military believes we are spies, or that we have technology they want." She looked back at him. "We are neither. We simply miscalculated our entry point and appeared too close to your Jupiter defense perimeter." Carter wasn't sure he believed that. No ship miscalculated its way past Jupiter's heavily guarded space. But he said nothing. Over the next few weeks, Carter found himself spending more time with Alara. She was assigned to the medical bay 3 days a week, where her knowledge of biology, even alien biology, proved valuable. Carter often saw her treating human inmates with a gentle efficiency that earned respect even from prisoners like Schultz, who kept his distance but watched her with suspicion. On a Tuesday, during recreation period, Ilara approached Carter while he was reading in a corner of the common room. "William," she said, using his first name as she always did, "may I ask you something personal?" He closed his book. "Sure. Why did you disobey your order? The one that brought you here?" The question caught him off guard. Few people asked directly. Most inmates either already knew the story or didn't care. "There were civilians," he said finally. 47 scientists at a research outpost. My commanding officer wanted the entire station destroyed because intelligence said there were enemy combatants hiding there. My scans showed only civilians. And your superiors punished you for saving them? 3 soldiers under my command died during the evacuation. The military doesn't accept disobedience, especially when it results in casualties. Alara was quiet for a moment. Among my people, taking a life brings great pain to the taker. We physically feel it. It is why we cannot be warriors. Your choice, to save rather than destroy, would be honored, not punished. Earth isn't as enlightened, Carter said. We've been at war with the Vraxians for almost 10 years. Mercy isn't valued much these days. Yet you showed it. That makes you different. Their eyes met, and Carter felt something shift between them. Understanding, perhaps, or something more. Their conversation was interrupted by a loud argument across the room. 2 inmates were shouting at each other, their voices rising. Guards moved in quickly, separating them before things escalated. Violence seems so natural to your species, Alara observed quietly. Not to all of us, Carter replied. Later that night, Carter lay awake in his cell, thinking about Alara and her people. In 3 years, he had accepted his fate. His life was over, his future a long stretch of imprisonment. But talking with her awakened something he thought long dead. Curiosity, hope even. The next morning, a guard came to his cell. Carter, warden wants to see you. Carter was led to Walsh's office, a space he'd seen only once before on his first day at the facility. The warden sat behind her desk, a data tablet in front of her. Sit down, Carter. He obeyed, wondering what this was about. I've been watching your interactions with the Nishari, Walsh said, particularly with Alara. Carter kept his face neutral. Is that against regulations? No. In fact, I'm going to encourage it. Walsh slid the tablet toward him. Military intelligence is very interested in the Nishari. Their technology is far beyond ours. Their ship's propulsion system alone could change the course of our war with the Vraxians. Carter looked at the tablet. It showed images of the Nishari vessel in a military dock, partially disassembled. What does this have to do with me? The Nishari aren't cooperating with interrogation. They're not hostile, but they're evasive. They answer questions without really answering them. Walsh leaned forward. But Alara seems to trust you. Carter understood immediately. You want me to spy on her. I want you to continue your friendship and report anything useful she tells you. Technology, their homeworld's location, their real purpose here. Walsh's expression hardened. In exchange, I can recommend a reduction in your sentence. Significant reduction. Carter stared at the tablet, conflicted. Freedom seemed impossible just days ago. Now it was being offered, at the price of betraying Ilara's trust. Do I have a choice, he asked. Everyone has choices, Carter. You made one that landed you here. Maybe this one can get you out. Walsh took back the tablet. Think about it. Let me know tomorrow. As the guard escorted him back to his cell, Carter felt the weight of the decision before him. Gain his freedom by betraying someone who had shown him nothing but honesty and respect, or remain true to his principles and serve 20 more years. Either way, he knew his fate was changing once again. Carter paced his small cell, his mind racing. The warden's offer echoed in his thoughts. Freedom in exchange for betraying Alara's trust. 20 years of his life versus his integrity. He had already sacrificed his career and freedom once for his principles. Could he do it again? Morning came with no clear answer. When his cell door slid open for breakfast, Carter walked to the mess hall in a daze. He filled his tray automatically and sat at his usual table. Ilara joined him minutes later. You seem troubled, she said, those large black eyes studying him closely. Carter looked up, just thinking. About what? He hesitated. The past. The choices that brought me here. Ilara nodded. The path behind us shapes the path ahead. She leaned forward slightly. William, there is something I wish to show you. Would you meet me? in the medical bay during your work period today? Carter worked in the prison's maintenance section, repairing equipment, a safe use of his engineering skills. I'll try, he said. Later that day, Carter managed to get permission to deliver replacement parts to the medical bay. Dr. Porter was away, leaving only a guard at the door and Alara inside, organizing supplies. The guard checked Carter's work. Order. You have 15 minutes. Inside, Alara was waiting. When the door closed, she moved quickly to a small room used for storage. Follow me, she whispered. In the storage room, Alara pressed her palm against the wall. To Carter's amazement, her hand glowed with a soft blue light. A small compartment appeared where before there had been only solid wall. How did you? Molecular manipulation, she explained, retrieving something from the hidden space. A basic skill taught to all Nishari children. In her palm sat a small crystal no bigger than a coin. It glowed with an inner light that shifted between blue and green. What is it? Carter asked. A memory crystal. It contains the truth about why we are here. She looked at him intently. I must know if I can trust you, William Carter. The warden asked you to spy on me, didn't she? Carter froze. How did you? Our hearing is more sensitive than humans realize. I heard your conversation through the wall. There was no anger in her voice, only calm assessment. What did you tell her? Carter didn't hesitate. I haven't given her an answer. Yet. But you will tell her something. It wasn't a question. Yes, he admitted. Alara handed him the crystal. Then tell her about this. Tell her we are willing to share information. But first I want you to see what is in it. Carter looked at the crystal uncertainly. How? Alara guided his fingers to specific points on the crystal's surface. Press here and here, then hold it to your temple. Feeling foolish but curious, Carter did as instructed. The world around him disappeared. He found himself floating in space, stars stretching in all directions. Before him hung a beautiful blue-green planet orbiting a red sun. Cities shimmered on its surface, structures unlike anything on Earth, flowing, organic buildings that seemed to grow from the landscape itself. This is Nishar, Alara's voice explained, though she wasn't physically present. My home. The view changed. A massive ship appeared, unlike the smaller vessel that had brought Alara to Earth. It dwarfed anything humans had built, a city in space. Our exploration vessel, the Harmony, Alara continued. It holds 10,000 of my people. Scientists, historians, artists, no warriors. We have been traveling for what you would call 50 Earth years, studying the galaxy. Another shift, and Carter saw something that made his blood run cold. A swarm of dark insect-like ships moved through a solar system. Where they passed, planets died. Their surfaces cracked, resources extracted in minutes. On one world, he watched as sentient beings, not human, but people nonetheless, were consumed by the swarm. The Devourers, Alara's voice said grimly. They do not communicate, they do not negotiate. They consume and move on. They have destroyed 17 civilizations that we know of. The vision shifted again, showing star charts. A path of destruction moving across the galaxy. They are coming, William. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. 20 Earth years, perhaps less. And their path leads directly to both our worlds. The vision faded, leaving Carter back in the storage room, gasping. Alara took back the crystal. Now, you know, she said softly, we came to warn humanity, to offer an alliance. Our technology with your adaptability. Together we might stand a chance against what is coming. Carter struggled to process what he had seen. If that's true, why are you prisoners? Why not just tell our leaders? We tried. Our ship approached your communication outposts near Jupiter. We sent messages of peace. Her expression showed sadness. Your military responded with weapons. They damaged our small vessel, captured us. They believe we are either allies of the Vraxians or a new threat. Carter's mind raced. If what she showed him was true, humanity faced a threat far greater than the Vraxian War. But would anyone believe him? A disgraced soldier and convicted traitor? The warden wants information about your technology, he said. Yes, Ilara nodded. And we will share it if it helps convince your leaders of the truth. But we need to speak with someone who will listen, someone with authority. Walsh has connections, Carter said slowly. She reports directly to General Howard Klein. Ilara's expression changed. That name, it means something to you. He was my commanding officer, the one who ordered me to destroy the research station, the one who had me court-martialed when I refused. And now he seeks our technology, Ilara said thoughtfully. Would he use it to protect or to destroy? Carter had no answer for that. The general had always been focused on victory at any cost. If he got his hands on Nishari technology, would he use it against the Vraxians, or would he listen to warnings about a greater threat? The door to the medical bay opened. Time's up, the guard called. Ilara quickly concealed the crystal. Think about what you've seen, she whispered. Meet me here again in 2 days. That night. Carter lay awake again. The visions from the crystal played in his mind. Beautiful Nishar, the massive Harmony ship, and those terrible devourers consuming everything in their path. Was it real, or an elaborate trick? The next morning, Carter was summoned to Warden Walsh's office again. Well? She asked without preamble. Have you made your decision? Carter took a deep breath. Yes. I'll help you. Walsh's expression remained neutral, but her eyes showed satisfaction. Good. What have you learned so far? Not much, Carter said, choosing his words carefully. But Ilara has hinted that they might be willing to share technology if they can speak with Earth authorities. They say they came here with a warning. A warning? Walsh raised an eyebrow. About what? She didn't say exactly. Something about a threat greater than the Vraxians. Walsh leaned back in her chair. Interesting approach. Create a bigger enemy to position themselves as allies. She studied Carter. Do you believe her? I don't know yet, he replied honestly. But I think it's worth hearing them out. Keep gathering information, Walsh instructed. If there's any truth to this, it could be valuable. General Klein is visiting the facility next week. If you get something concrete, maybe he'll want to hear it directly. Carter's heart raced. Klein, coming here, the man who had destroyed his career, was now his potential path to freedom, and possibly Earth's salvation if Ilara was telling the truth. I'll do my best, he promised, conflicting emotions churning inside him. As he left the warden's office, Carter realized he was now playing a dangerous game. He was sharing some truth with Walsh while holding back the full extent of what he knew. He was working to gain Ilara's trust while potentially betraying it, and soon he would face the man who had sentenced him to this place. The fate of 2 worlds might hang in the balance, and William Carter, prisoner, outcast, traitor, stood at the center of it all. 2 days later, Carter returned to the medical bay. This time Dr. Porter was there with Ilara, watching as the alien woman treated a patient's infected wound. The blue glow from Ilara's hands as she worked was subtle but unmistakable. Fascinating, Dr. Porter murmured. No antibiotics, no stitches, just whatever that is. The patient, an older inmate named Frank Wells, looked equally amazed as the angry red infection visibly receded under Ilara's touch. How are you doing that? Wells asked. We call it cellular harmonization, Ilara explained. I am helping your body's natural defenses work more efficiently. She finished the treatment and stepped back. Wells examined his arm with wonder. It doesn't even hurt anymore. Dr. Porter checked the wound herself, then shook her head in disbelief. 2 days of standard treatment did nothing. 5 minutes with her and it's nearly healed. Carter waited until Wells left before approaching. Could I speak with Ilara? He asked Dr. Porter. The warden authorized it. Dr. Porter looked skeptical, but nodded. 5 minutes. I need to report these treatment results anyway. When they were alone, Ilara led Carter to the storage room again. General Klein is coming to the facility next week, Carter said without preamble. Ilara's expression remained calm, but her skin rippled slightly with darkening blue tones. The man who had you imprisoned. Yes. The warden told him about our conversations. He wants to hear about your warning directly. This could be our chance, Ilara said. Or a trap. It could be both, Carter admitted. Klein is ambitious. If he believes you, he might help, especially if it advances his career. But he's also ruthless. Ilara considered this. What do you suggest? Show him what you showed me. The crystal. It won't work for him as it did for you, Ilara said. The crystals respond differently to different minds. For some, they show only vague impressions. Then we need more proof, something concrete that would convince Klein and Earth's military leaders. Carter paced the small room. Warden Walsh mentioned your ship is being studied. Is there something there that would prove what you've told me? Ilara's skin darkened. Further. Yes, our navigation system contains records of devourer movements across 17 star systems. If your scientists could access that data, it would confirm everything. How would they access it? They can't, not without help. The ship systems are locked to non-Nishari. She hesitated. But I could unlock them. Carter saw the plan forming. If Klein agrees to take you to the ship, we must ensure all 5 of us go, Ilara insisted. We are connected to our vessel through a neural link. I need the others to fully activate the systems. The door to the medical bay opened. Carter, Dr. Porter called. Time's up. Carter nodded to Ilara. I'll find a way to make it happen. Over the next 3 days, Carter reported limited information to Warden Walsh. He revealed the story of the Devourers but held back details about the ship's systems and the neural link. If Klein wanted proof, he would need to take all the Nishari to their vessel. On the day of Klein's visit, the prison buzzed with activity. Extra guards patrolled the corridors. Inmates were confined to cells except for essential workers. Carter, as part of the maintenance crew, was permitted limited movement. He was repairing a climate control panel near the administrative section when he overheard a conversation from a nearby room. The voices were muffled, but he recognized Walsh's clipped tones. The alien technology could turn the tide against the Vraxians, she was saying. If we can weaponize it, a deeper voice interrupted. General Klein. I don't care about their warning. If these devourers exist, they're decades away. The Vraxian war is now. What about the aliens themselves? Walsh asked. Once we extract what we need from their ship, they become research subjects, Klein said coldly. Defense Science Division is particularly interested in their biology. Carter felt sick. Research subjects. He knew what that meant. Dissection, experimentation. He finished his repair job quickly and made his way toward the security control center. He needed access to communicate with Ilara to warn her. Using his maintenance clearance, Carter entered the security hub, claiming he needed to check the sensor panels. The lone guard barely looked up from his station. Carter moved to a terminal and quickly typed a message into the medical bay system. Danger. Klein plans research on subjects. Meet tonight. He deleted the message log and left, hoping Ilara would see it. That evening, Carter was summoned to Warden Walsh's office. Klein was there, tall and imposing in his military uniform, with more medals than Carter remembered. Prisoner 4587, Klein said, not using Carter's name. Warden Walsh tells me you've been gathering intelligence from the alien woman. Carter stood at attention from old habit. Yes, sir. Tell me about these devourers. Carter repeated what Ilara had shown him, a swarm of ships consuming worlds moving steadily through the galaxy toward Earth. Klein's expression remained skeptical. Convenient story. They appear in our space, get captured, then warn of a bigger threat we should unite against. He looked at Walsh. Classic infiltration tactic. The Nishari say they can prove it, Carter added. Their ship's navigation system recorded encounters with the Devourers across multiple star systems. This caught Klein's interest. The tech team hasn't been able to access their nav systems. They need the Nishari to unlock it, all 5 of them. Carter chose his words carefully. Sir, If what they're saying is true, this threat makes the Vraxian conflict look like a border skirmish. Klein studied Carter for a long moment. You believe them? I've seen enough to think we should investigate further, sir. Klein turned to Walsh. Arrange transport for tomorrow. We'll take the aliens to the research facility where their ship is being held. If they can unlock these navigation records. He left the sentence unfinished. And if they can? Carter dared to ask. Klein's eyes narrowed. That's not your concern, prisoner. Carter was dismissed. As a guard escorted him back to his cell, he felt a mix of hope and dread. Klein would take the Nishari to their ship, but what would happen after that? Later that night, his cell door slid open unexpectedly. A guard he didn't recognize stood there. Maintenance emergency in Section 4, the guard said loudly, then lowered his voice. Medical bay. She's waiting. Carter followed, confused but hopeful. The guard led him through rarely used corridors until they reached the medical section. Inside, Alara waited with Dr. Porter. We don't have much time, Dr. Porter said. Security cameras are on a loop for 15 minutes. What's happening? Carter asked. Alara told me everything, Dr. Porter said. I've worked with her long enough to believe her. And I heard what Klein is planning for them. We must act tonight, Alara said urgently. Once we reach our ship, Klein will separate us and begin his experiments. What can we do? Carter asked. The facility is locked down because of Klein's visit. Not entirely, the guard interrupted. I'm Sergeant Eric Mason. I served under you at the Ganymede outpost 3 years ago. He looked at Carter with respect. You saved my brother at that research station. Now I'm returning the favor. Carter stared in shock. Mason? But how did you... There's no time, Mason said. A transport is being prepared for tomorrow's prisoner movement. It's fueled and ready now. Dr. Porter has created a medical emergency requiring the Nishari to be moved tonight instead. We can get to the ship, Ilara added. But we need you, William. Me? Why? Because I trust you, she said simply. And because we cannot pilot the transport alone. Carter looked between them, realization dawning. You're talking about escape. Dr. Porter nodded grimly. It's treason for all of us. But if what Ilara says is true, the alternative is extinction. The choice hung before Carter. Stay, continue his punishment, and watch as Klein destroyed the only hope against the coming storm. Or risk everything, again, for what he believed was right. How do we get the other Nishari? He asked. Mason smiled. Already done. They're waiting at the transport dock. We've got exactly 12 minutes before the camera loop ends. Carter took a deep breath. Once again, he would defy orders. Once again, he would follow his conscience instead of command. But this time, far more than 47 lives hung in the balance. Let's go, he said. The prison transport rumbled to life as Carter took the controls. His heart pounded in his chest. 3 years in prison had not dulled his piloting skills. His fingers moved across the console with practiced ease. We have 8 minutes before. They notice we're gone, Mason said, checking his watch. The security shift change should buy us another 5. In the passenger compartment behind them, Dr. Porter was with the 5 Nishari. The aliens sat calmly, their blue skin glowing faintly in the dim light. Only Alara showed signs of tension, her skin rippling with darker patterns. The ship is being held at the Jupiter Research Station, Mason explained. That's 4 hours, at maximum speed. Once we're out of Ceres airspace, we should be clear until we reach Jupiter defense perimeter. Carter nodded grimly. And then? Then we improvise, Mason answered with a half smile. The transport lifted smoothly from the prison landing pad. Carter kept the running lights off, using only minimal power as they glided away from the facility. In the darkness of space, they would be just another supply vessel making its rounds. For 30 minutes, they traveled in tense silence. Carter checked the radar constantly for signs of pursuit. Nothing so far. Perhaps their absence hadn't been discovered yet. Alara came forward, to the cockpit. William, she said softly. Thank you for what you're doing. Carter didn't take his eyes off the controls. Don't thank me yet, we still need to reach your ship. Even if we fail, you risked everything to help us. My people do not forget such debts. He glanced at her. It wasn't just for you. If what you showed me is true, Earth needs to know about the Devourers. The radar beeped suddenly. Carter tensed. We've got company. A small blip appeared on the screen, moving fast from the direction of Ceres. Then another. 2 pursuit vessels. They've found us, Mason said grimly. Military interceptors, faster than us and better armed. Carter studied the readouts. We're still an hour from the nearest jump point. We'll never make it. Ilara looked at the radar screen. May I? She asked. Carter nodded, and she placed her hand on the console. The blue glow spread from her fingers into the ship's systems. The radar display flickered, then changed. The pursuing ship suddenly appeared much farther away. What did you do? Mason asked in amazement. I altered the sensor returns, Ilara explained. They still see us, but not where we actually are. Carter stared at her. You can interface directly with our technology? To a limited extent. Your systems are primitive, but not incompatible with our abilities. The pursuit continued for another 2 hours. Twice more, Ilara adjusted their sensor profile, keeping the interceptors chasing phantoms. Finally, they approached the jump point that would take them directly to Jupiter space. We need identification codes to use the jump gate, Carter said. Without them, I have valid codes, Mason interrupted. Level 3 security clearance. It should work for a standard transport. He input the codes and the jump gate activated. A swirling blue vortex opened before them, a shortcut through space that would save them days of conventional travel. Here goes nothing, Carter murmured, and guided the transport into the gate. The jump was rough. The transport shuddered as spatial energies washed over it. Carter gripped the controls tightly, keeping them on course. When they emerged on the other side, Jupiter loomed large in their view screen, its massive red storm visible even from this distance. We made it, Mason said, relief evident in his voice. Not quite yet, Carter replied, pointing to the radar. Multiple signals appeared surrounding the massive Jupiter research station. Heavy security will never get through undetected. Dr. Porter joined them in the cockpit. What now? Ilara studied the station layout on their screens. Our ship is being held in the outer research bay, she said. We need a distraction, Carter thought quickly. Mason, does this transport have emergency beacons? 4 of them. Standard equipment. Good. We'll launch them in different directions, set to trigger disaster warnings. That should scatter their security forces. The plan worked better than expected. As the beacons blared false warnings about radiation leaks and system failures, security vessels peeled away from the station to investigate. Carter piloted the transport through the gap in their defenses, approaching a large hangar bay on the station's far side. There, Ilara pointed. That's where they're holding our ship. The bay doors were closed. Carter checked their options. We could request emergency docking, Mason suggested. They'd check our clearance, Carter replied. We need another way. Ilara stepped forward again. Bring us close to the outer hull, near the control panel for the bay doors. Carter maneuvered the transport as directed, bringing them within meters of the station's exterior. Ilara placed both hands on the transport's forward window. The blue glow intensified, stretching out toward the station. Carter watched in amazement as the massive bay doors began to slide open. How are you doing that? He asked. Their systems are connected to ours, she explained. Her voice strained with effort. Through our ship, I can access their controls. The bay doors opened just enough for their transport to slip through. Inside was a cavernous space dominated by the sleek blue-silver form of the Nishiri vessel. Even partially disassembled, it was beautiful. Organic curves and flowing lines unlike any human ship. Around it, scaffolding and research equipment stood abandoned, the technicians having responded to the emergency beacons. Carter landed the transport close to the Nishiri ship. We don't have much time. Security will realize the alerts are false. Soon, they rushed from the transport. The other four Nishari moved with sudden urgency toward their vessel. Ilara paused, looking back at Carter, Mason, and Dr. Porter. "Come with us," she said. "Once they discover you helped us, your lives will be forfeit." Carter looked at the others. Mason nodded firmly. Dr. Porter hesitated only briefly before agreeing. "Swell. We'll go with you," Carter told Ilara. "But first we need proof about the Devourers. Something to send back to Earth." "Follow me," Ilara said. They boarded the Nishari ship through an opening in its hull where human researchers had cut their way in. Inside, the vessel was even more strange and beautiful. Corridors looked grown rather than built, with walls that glowed with soft blue light. The other Nishari were already at various stations, their hands merging with control surfaces. Ilara led them to what appeared to be the ship's bridge. In the center stood a pedestal with a larger version of the memory crystal she had shown Carter. "This is our navigation and encounter log," she explained. "It contains detailed scans of 17 systems visited by the Devourers, including visual records." She placed her hand on the crystal. It glowed brightly, and a holographic display filled the room. Star charts, planetary systems, and finally, the terrible swarm of Devourer ships consuming world after world. "Can you copy this data?" Carter asked. "Yes, but human systems cannot read our crystal technology directly," Ilara replied. "I will need to convert it." Alarms blared suddenly, both from the station and within the Nishari ship itself. "They've discovered the false beacons," Mason warned. "And us. Station security is on full alert." Through the ship's open hull section, they could see armed figures entering the bay. "We're out of time," Dr. Porter said urgently. The four other Nishari had taken positions around the bridge. The ship hummed with building energy, despite its damaged state. "Can this thing still fly?" Carter asked incredulously. "The primary systems are functional," Ilara confirmed. "But we need more time to break the docking clamps and restore full power." Carter made a decision. "Mason, help Ilara get their proof ready to transmit. Dr. Porter, find something to secure yourselves with. I'm going to buy us some time." He ran back through the ship to the hull breach. Outside, security forces were advancing cautiously toward the Nishari vessel, weapons drawn. Carter spotted a control panel for the bay's emergency systems. Using his engineering knowledge, he overrode the safety protocols and triggered the bay's decompression sequence. Warning lights flashed as air began to vent from the massive space. The security forces scrambled for oxygen masks and secure positions as equipment and tools began floating in the rapidly thinning atmosphere. Carter returned to the ship, sealing the hull breach behind him with an emergency patch. "We've got minutes at most," he reported. "They'll restore atmosphere and continue their approach." On the bridge, Ilara and the others worked frantically. The ship's systems pulsed with energy as the Nishari communicated in their musical language. "We have the data ready to transmit," Ilara announced, "and the ship is responding, but the docking clamps are still active." "Can we break free?" Mason asked. "Yes, but the force required would damage the station severely," she replied. "Many humans would die." Carter shook his head. "Then we find another way." He studied the ship's displays, noting power distribution and structural integrity. "If we overload the station's docking system instead of breaking the clamps themselves." Working together, Carter and Mason created a power surge through the docking interface. The station's clamps released suddenly, setting off more alarms. The Nishari ship drifted free in the now airless bay, the artificial gravity keeping them grounded within. "Now," Carter urged. The ship's engines glowed to life. With remarkable precision, the vessel turned within the confines of the bay and accelerated toward the still partially open doors.